the New Zealand Green Party, Fruitcakes on Steroids. Firstly, please watch the following climate change clip by James Shaw, co-leader of the New Zealand Green Party and who is also the New Zealand Minister for Climate Change. I'll make some comments after the clip, but quite frankly, this sort of political abuse has to stop.
Climate change is the greatest challenge of our time. Over the past few months, we have seen firsthand the impact that the climate crisis is already having on our communities. Massive repeated flooding, incredible storm damage, again repeatedly. The climate crisis is no longer something that's happening somewhere else, to someone else, at some point in the future. It's happening here, to us, now. And the best thing that we can do to prevent it from getting any worse is by rapidly cutting out the pollution that we're putting into the atmosphere that causes global warming in the first place.
At first glance, what Shaw says sounds reasonable. Climate, weather, floods, storms, damage. But his conclusion is not only nonsense, it's abusive. I'll explain. I'm sure most reasonable intelligent people know all of this by now, but Shaw's video clip is another example of politicians taking advantage of a situation to feather their own nest or make themselves feel more important than they really are, rather than actually addressing the real problem to help the general public. The COP, Paris Agreement and New Zealand's emission trading scheme have nothing to do with climate change, but they have everything to do with two socialist ploys. Firstly, the Paris Agreement is to transfer wealth from the richer, developed countries to the poorer, developing countries. And secondly, the New Zealand emission trading scheme is nothing more than a disguised tax grab. Surprise, surprise. Regardless of whether you believe that greenhouse gases, carbon emissions, are primarily responsible for global climate change or not, the matter is completely irrelevant within New Zealand because the country's carbon emissions account for less than 0.2%. Closer to 0.1% of global greenhouse gases. If New Zealand sank to the bottom of the Pacific Ocean tomorrow, or if somehow we managed to stop 100% of all greenhouse gas carbon emissions overnight, it wouldn't make the slightest bit of difference to global climate change. New Zealand should withdraw from the COP Paris Agreement and also abort the emissions trading scheme, which is nothing more than a disguised tax grab, because neither will make any difference to global climate change. By all means use technology to make New Zealand a clean, greener environment. Nothing wrong with healthy, clean fresh air. Nothing wrong with crisp, clear drinking water. Nothing wrong with quality, fertile land and trees. Nothing wrong with trying to reduce pollution or harmful waste products. But please don't link these goals to climate change for political reasons and increasing taxes. To James Shaw, if you wish to preach your climate change religion to the masses, then why don't you pluck up courage and jump on an electric aeroplane, then fly off to China, the USA, India and Russia, who combined account for over 60% of global carbon emissions, and try telling them what to do. Perhaps if they don't disappear you as a fruitcake lunatic, they might listen to your plans and change the world for the better. James, do you seriously believe that cyclones that start in the tropics north of Australia, then travel thousands of miles towards New Zealand, will suddenly stop coming to our coastlines if everyone drove electric cars or livestock farm animals stopped emitting gas? The solution how to handle deteriorating weather conditions and/or climate change is fairly obvious, and that is adaptation. Namely, for goodness sake, stop building housing subdivisions and critical infrastructure in hazard zones. A clandestine emissions trading scheme tax grab is definitely not the answer. Finally, James, your fruitcake climate change conclusions are abusive to the upcoming youth of New Zealand. You are confusing their minds and damaging their mental health with your nonsensical, political fear-mongering. Get a grip, please. Thank you for listening. Wangari Tim.